This is News You Can Use.
Welcome to a special episode of News You Can Use. Normally, our program airs on Mondays at 3 p.m. However, in response to the current volatility in the housing industry and housing finance markets, we wanted to get the best information to you we could regarding interest rates and as well the best ways that all of us should adapt and adjust in responding to the current market conditions. To better understand where we are and where we're headed in our industries, it's important to first understand the unprecedented set of conditions that led us here. Interest rates reached all-time historic lows during 2020 and 2021. In fact, 2021 saw the first time that interest rates reached an average yearly mortgage rate of under 3%. When you consider that the lifetime average, historical, for 30-year fixed rate mortgages is 7.76%, well, many of us have spent our entire careers in a less than lifetime average mortgage interest rate environment. We haven't seen rates above 7% since the start of the 21st century. In 2022, we've all painfully experienced, however, the most rapid increase in mortgage interest rates, ever. 1980 to 1981, there was a rapid increase as well. 2.89% increase from the beginning of the year, 13.74 to 16.63. This year, the second largest increase in history reflects a 1.99 increase. That is the average so far from 2.96 to 4.95. But that doesn't tell the whole story because 4.95, as you're well familiar, is a thing of the past. 2 months, 3 months old. You see, the year-to-date average incorporates where the interest rates were at the start of the year and where they currently are now. Interest rates today are much higher than 4.95. So stay tuned. This year is going to set a record. So let's take a look at the weekly averages for this year, the record-setting, highest, fastest increase ever year, 2022. There's always a little bit of ebb and flow, but we started the year 3.22% and currently sit at 6.8 or just under 7 or right around 7, depending upon credit score, LTV, et cetera, et cetera. That's an increase of 3.6. So indeed, at this point, if things stay as expected, this is going to be the fastest ever in history. Keep in mind, though, it is really still the rate, kind of the average over the history of mortgages. So it's not high. It just is compared to where it was. Throughout the year, we've shared on this program the reasons why mortgage interest rates have made such rapid increases. Here's a quick summary. Back in January 2020, our economy was humming along. 3.5% unemployment, almost full employment. And interest rates, mortgages, were roughly 3%. An incredible market. That was BC, before COVID. When COVID hit our shores, unprecedented, we shut down our economy. 20 million job losses. Unemployment spiked from 3.5% to 14% in 45 days. In response to these events, our government and pretty much every government around the world, they started printing money. And it was a stopgap measure for the economies so that we could subsidize the loss of income based on the loss of employment. In the U.S., we printed $7 trillion with a T dollars and poured it into the bank accounts of those who had lost their jobs, and as well, painfully, we poured it into accounts of people who didn't lose their jobs, an unintended consequence when you're doing something that significant, and the government was involved. Fortunately, our economies reopened here in the U.S. fairly quickly, and our neighbors now actually had a lot of spending power. The only problem was the global shutdown of employment had created a supply chain disruption, and there was a lack of production everywhere, especially in China, where nearly everything is made. As Americans went back to work, they wanted to buy stuff. That's what we do. But no stuff was being made as China's zero COVID policy kept them in lockdown long after America was out of lockdown. Again, people had money to buy things, but there was a lack of things to buy, creating a supply and demand imbalance. Lots of demand, no supply. Those are the ingredients of inflation. Then, at the worst time possible, Russia invaded Ukraine. In response, the whole world rightly stopped purchasing Russian oil. Well, that created rapid increases in gas prices and further ignited the inflation fire. The word of the year for 2022, inflation. In response to inflation, the Federal Reserve went to work, and to curb inflation, they raised interest rates to reduce demand for everything. Credit card costs goes up, car loan costs goes up, home mortgage loans costs go up, and it reduces demand, which then gets supply and demand back in balance, which is how you get inflation back down. As a real estate or mortgage professional, it's absolutely essential for you to understand the historical perspective. However, this program isn't meant to give you a history lesson. Your chief concern and mine is understanding the current housing environment as well as where we're headed. Because most important of all, how can we still create structures that create winning deals for your clients in this rapidly changing environment? That's what we're here to do today on News You Can Use. So let's dive in. You see, all this news, it's had a dramatic impact on the single biggest factor that's impacting housing today. That is the mindset of buyers and sellers. With all of this information taking place, people are, buyers and sellers, they're confused, uncertain. They don't know what to do. We need to tell them what to do. They're asking questions like, did I miss my window to get a home with rates now going up in an historic way this year? Has my home lost value? Will it continue to lose value? And by the way, where are interest rates headed next? Our customers have a lot of questions right now. So it's imperative that we arm ourselves educationally with the answers so that we can quell their concerns and give them a pathway to best. We all get paid. That's what we get paid to do, is build trust with buyers and sellers. And we endeavor to earn your referrals by building trust with you. Trust. It's the most important 5-letter word in business. It's more important than money, house, and rates. It's everything. It's the reason that customers choose you, and it's the reason that you choose Supreme. Trust is earned by demonstrating 2 important qualities: authority and empathy. Authority. Can you, as a service professional, be the best person to solve your clients' problems? Empathy. Do you care the most about the challenges that your customers are facing? Our responsibility is to be the educational source to offer you, that is Supreme, offer you and your buyers, as well as the listing agent, the best information so that you can best meet your customers' needs and best structure a contract in today's market. That's based on today's market conditions. The low rates of 2020 and 2021, they're history. They've been quickly replaced by a more normal historical level. In fact, many loans are being quoted today right at the lifetime average of 7 and change, 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Again, that's an environment we haven't experienced since 2000, and most of us haven't experienced in our professional careers. In the last 2 years, it became the new normal in our marketplace for sellers to receive multiple offers above list price with few, if any, contingencies. Home sales since 2012, they've hovered around 20 to 30% of sales being above list. By August of 2021, that number shot up to 60% of the homes that were being sold for above list, and well above list in most cases. You know what I'm talking about. Well, last spring, the alarm started getting sounding, and the winds were going to shift. Weather was going to change from sellers to buyers. It always does. Inflation and the interest rate environment was catching up to the housing market after 2 years of historic performance in terms of number of sales and in terms of pricing. In fact, month to month, the last month, we saw declines of sales prices by sellers of 3%. That's the single biggest 1 month decline on home pricing in history. Anecdotally, additionally, builders in America, well, they increased their contributions to customers for closing costs and points. That's another way of reducing your sales price. And they did it because the single biggest challenge that buyers are having today are financing the home. Well, sales prices are coming down. That's good for buyers. Interest rates at current levels, higher than buyers expected. That's not good for buyers. As the increases in rates, they actually surpass the benefit savings that buyers could get today with lower prices from sellers. So, the season's changed. Again, now is the time to earn your customers' trust. And trust, educate yourself, educate your customers, care the most, and then execute. Here we go. Based on the current market conditions, this is our best advice to earn trust and win business in the current marketplace. Start by educating buyers to begin making offers immediately, asking sellers to contribute 3 to 6% in seller pays, targeting discount points and closing cost. Why? Seller discounts. They do not represent when there's seller paid towards closing costs and discount points. That doesn't represent more of a sacrifice by a seller than the market is already demanding. It just allows the impact of that seller concession to be felt every single month in your buyer's mortgage payments, their biggest objection to buying. These seller contributions set the stage for us to offer the buyer the best financing terms available, including another powerful tool offering a 1-0 or 2-1 fixed rate buy down to your buyers. A fixed rate buy down is the best way today to ease the payment for a buyer, and it does not increase the risk to the buyer over time. It works like this. If the current interest rate environment mortgage rate is 7, the first year payment using a 2-1 buy down would be 5%. After the first year, the rate would go up to 6% payment. And then beginning in the third year, the rate would finally go to 7, the current market rate. However, buyers will likely refinance before those rates ever get to 7 based on forecasts. Back to that in a moment. It's simple and it's brilliant. Why? Because it considers the current market conditions, the weather changes specifically related to sellers. It considers arguably the biggest objection that exists today for buyers, interest rates, and the financing cost to buyers. So the single biggest reason that is that many of the deals in today's marketplace are collapsing is financing. So finally, this offers a very specific solution that meets the moment and market that we're in. The deal structuring we just shared represents 2 ways your customers can buy the house they want while simply renting today's higher rate. However, we've been working in the background to create another resource to help you and your customers win in this extraordinary market. The program that Supreme Lending is now offering is called the Supreme Lending Customer Loyalty Program. I like to call it the 2-step. This is how it works in the simplest of terms. Finance with Supreme Lending today, and we'll offer a no Supreme cost. That's right, a no Supreme cost refinance anytime after the first 9 months from your buyer's closing date. This means that they can dramatically reduce the cost to refinance in the future, which they likely will. And it increases their motivation to buy the home today. Seller paid concessions in the contract, contributions to discount points and closing costs will offer us the opportunity to give your buyer a 1-0 or 2-1 buy down product. And the new Supreme Lending Loyalty Program, well, that joins a host, arsenal of tools that we already offer to you as a professional to offer to your buyer tools like Credit Essentials, Supreme Rescue Service, Supreme Speed Service. All these tools provide you with the solutions that you and your customers need to weather this current marketplace environment. Education builds trust, and when you execute, you build customers for life. One final point on why we believe you and your customers should start with Supreme. Our good friend, Doug Duncan, the chief economist with Fannie Mae, well, he was recently honored with the Lawrence R. Klein Award for blue chip forecasting accuracy, one of the best known and longest standing achievements in economic forecasting. I spoke with him yesterday morning. He's forecasting, Doug is, that interest rates, well, they'll come down materially, mortgage rates, over the next 12 to 18 months once we get inflation under control. Doug's forecasting it, and so are most economists. In other words, the Fed will finally get control of inflation, and mortgage interest rates then will, in fact, go back down. But we don't want to wait. You don't, we don't, and your buyers and sellers don't. They want to act now and then act later. The two-step. Doug will be joining us, by the way, in person on October 19th to provide us with his latest forecast for next year and for beyond. Contact your Supreme Lending loan officer here in Atlanta for an invitation to this exclusive event. The best service providers, they know more, and therefore they can educate more and serve better. Now that you know more, let's go to work. Best is waiting, and best starts with Supreme.